Chapter 11 Tree of Life. The bright light of Sun's Peak peered relentlessly through the folds of the tent. Swirls of red and gold danced before Tubal-Cain's eyes and spun wildly out of control. Ah! Tubal-Cain groaned as he grabbed at the thick coverings and pulled them back over. My head, he mumbled and lifted himself clumsily to his feet. By Adama's blood, I will punish the fool who prepared that drink of power. My, said a lilting voice from the tent's entrance. Those are strong words for a man's only mother. Mother, I didn't mean. Mother, I didn't mean. Yes, you did mean it as you said it, chided Zillah as she entered and set the large pot of steaming brew on the smooth stone. But hasty words are often misguided. You know very well the drink of power does not harm when its essence is consumed with respect. Nai Elohim of all people would know better. Celebration or no, such behavior is an offense to the Ancient One. Zillah paused as she noticed a slight slump in her son's large muscular frame. Never mind that now. A cup of ketu will set you right again. Tubal-Cain stared gratefully at his mother as he dipped a small cup. Tubal-Cain stared gratefully at his mother as he dipped a small cup into the pot and sipped the hot liquid. She was still a woman pleasing to the eye, even if she was past the fresh bloom of first age. It was easy to see where Naamah derived her great beauty, and a pity his father overlooked it. You are most gracious, mother, said Tubal-Cain with satisfaction as she began tidying the unkempt dwelling. You know it's high time you chose a wife. She would keep things in order, including that temper of yours, or at least let the Sabasi come in and fix things up a bit. Mother, please, do not start. You know father has not given me permission to wed yet. Do not start. You know father has not given me permission to wed yet. Besides, Naamah helps me when she can, and where is Naamah anyway? I'm hungry. She usually leaves a meal for me at Son's birth. Ask your father, said Zillah flatly, frowning as she leaned against the large rod in the center of the tent. Don't you remember? Or has the drink of power made you senseless too? She left with Benai Elohim Shemjaza. She spent last Sun's sleep with him, said Zillah calmly. What? Tubal-Cain rubbed his head absently as he tried to remember last eve. Lamech's temper, the Benai Elohim, the communion meal, all passed before his eyes in a blur. He remembered the drink of power, much of it, and the smoke of heaven, the talking. Oh, now he remembered Lamech's dealing and Naamah leaving with Simjaza. What had he been thinking? Why didn't he say anything? I tried to stop, said Zillah, rubbing her cheek tenderly, and was not treated kindly for it. Why would he do that? There has been no ceremony, no consecration. Naamah will be shunned and cast aside, and she was promised to Lita. Tubal-Cain tossed the empty cup aside and hastily threw his bright red rose. Must be saying, we will be a byword and a... Now, son, said Zillah, as she tied and knotted the golden sash of the firstborn around his waist. I have covered the matter as best I could, but Lita is beginning to ask questions. Just go see your father. If he agrees to do a ceremony, we may save Naamah's name still. Zillah watched with a cunning smirk as Tubal-Cain rushed from his tent towards his father's larger dwelling. Tubal-Cain's face flushed with fury as he stormed past the Sabasi scurrying about with baskets of grain. Stop, father. Must find Naamah. Must stop, father. The thoughts pummeled his brain, intensifying his aching head, infuriating him further. Tubal-Cain thrust aside the fur-lined tent folds and bounded into his father's tent without permission or greeting, unconsciously duplicating Lamech's own tirade from the eve before. Father, you must retrieve Naamah now and give her a proper ceremony, ordered Tubal-Cain boldly. The Sabasi who had been attending him dashed from the tent without a word. Lamech looked up slowly from his bowl of figs, glowering at Tubal-Cain. If you weren't my son, and said Lamech, as he stuffed another plump fruit in his mouth, I would teach you what it means to disturb my meal with foolishness. Father, Tubal-Cain stammered, recognizing Lamech's familiar temper ready to flare. I meant no offense. It's just that Yes, snapped Father Lamech, still tearing into the fruit one after the other, not bothering to wipe the sweet juice dribbling down his chin. It is just what? Well, honored one, began Tubal-Cain, more diplomatically this time. I know that the arrangement with Benai Elohim Simjaza is one of importance, but Father, why have you not consummated the union with the proper ceremony? What will the tribesmen say? How can they respect our family when your daughter is treated like a common Nuta? Father Lamech exploded, but not in the way Tubal-Cain expected. Lamech's face cracked and stretched. My boy, said Lamech as he patted Tubal-Cain on the back. There is nothing wrong with the company of a Nuta. Lamech laughed again at the shocked expression on Tubal-Cain's face. Ah, never mind that now. When you take a wife, you will understand. As for your sister Naamah, she is no Nuta. Yes, it was a necessity, Tubal-Cain. You see, I can tell when a man is ready to move, and that Simjaza was ready. By Adama's blood, if I had not taken action quickly, he surely would have found pleasure with another, and we would not have the advantage now, would we? But Father, Mother said, so that is it. Zilla's mouth has been running and twisting like the mighty Pisan again. Tubal-Cain, haven't I taught you that women are not to be trusted in these things? But listen, my son, I have my arms around the matter. Naamah will have a ceremony. Good, Father, I knew you had the wisdom of the ancient inn. As soon as she conceives. What? Tubal-Cain, barked Lamech sharply, calm yourself. Tubal-Cain pressed his lips firmly together, forcing the thoughts between them into silence as he unconsciously responded to his father's command, just as he had as a childling. Listen, there was no other way. The Benai Elohim Simjaza is no fool. He had no intentions of marrying a daughter of Eve who could not produce him a son. Tubal-Cain's mouth formed a perfect O, although the sound never came out. Instead, he stared intently at his father as the realization sunk in. Of course, the Son of God would not allow himself to be bound in a fruitless union as an ordinary man. Of course, he would want to be sure. Yes, now you understand, my son. Swift action had to be taken. It was absolutely necessary, and you know a man must be flexible in these matters. I am not concerned. Naamah will be fruitful, as her mother was. She is not afflicted with the sickness. She will have her ceremony. The most extravagant any daughter of Eve has ever seen. Then it will be done. No harm will come of it. You see, my boy, the ancient has given us a mind, said Lamech as he tapped Tubal-Cain firmly on the forehead, and we must use the good sense he gave us if the prophecy is to be fulfilled. Oh, Father, forgive my foolishness, said Tubal-Cain, grinning as he kneeled quickly to honor him. No matter, my son, said Lamech brusquely, as he gave Tubal-Cain a hand up, but I will need your help. The tribesmen will soon begin to talk. Some of the women are already asking questions, and they will not be put off much longer by our excuses. We will have to explain Naamah's presence and Simjaza's. So it is true, then. Lamech turned around calmly at the new intrusion, as fresh rage filled his creviced voice with smooth contempt. I would not be so bold if I were you, Lita. Tubal-Cain moved silently to the corner of the room as he recognized the nature of his father's deceptively quiet tone. It was most dangerous, not when he was yelling and screaming curses, but it was in these moments of measured hate when Lamech could become most violent. Lita stopped his approach suddenly as he noticed Tubal-Cain's retreat. If Tubal-Cain, his own son and the most fearless of the sons of Cain, backs away, surely I should. Father Lamech, I stammered Lita as he dropped to one knee and bowed his head. I meant no offense, but I just came from the Benai Elohim Simjaza's tent and what? Snapped Lamech. Well, the one called Azazel told me to Simjaza, and then as I was coming to see you, I heard you tell Tubal-Cain, said Lita, pointing a finger at Tubal-Cain, who remained in the corner of the tent. please, most honored one, tell me that there has been some sort of mistake. Surely you would not do this thing to your faithful Sabasi. Lamech stared at the pitiful figure kneeling at his feet with tears brimming in his eyes with disbelief. I can't believe I ever considered this weakling for my daughter. Get up, you fool! A faithful Sabasi would not bother his master with nonsense. As Nema's father, you know right to give her to whom I please, and it pleases me to give her to the Bana Elohim Simjaza, a man befitting her great beauty, who can offer her the moon and the stars in return, not just a life of scuffling and scurrying to and fro. But you gave your word to me. I was her intended. Everyone knows I was her intended, said Lita, stumbling to his feet as he backed away in disbelief. You can't. Oh, I can, Lita, and I have, snorted Lamech derisively as he stalked towards Lita. And if you have the sense of the Ancient One in you at all, you're with my plans. But you promised, you gave your word. Whack! Silence, you fool, shouted Lamech as he slapped Lita squarely across the cheek. Lita stood in stunned silence. He held his cheek, unable to find the words that should have come. If you ever dishonor me again, I will make you a slug among men. I will put you down so low no son of Cain will ever even think of allowing his daughter to marry one such as you, said Lamech as he gave Lita a final push that sent him tumbling out of their dwellings to see the cause of the commotion. Lita slowly lifted himself up as droplets fell like tears from his soaked garment and dotted the muddy earth beneath. With head hanging and shoulders drooping, he cringed at the chuckles of the elders, who laughed thoroughly at the object of Father Lamech's latest tirade. Lita, come this way, whispered a voice. Lita raised his head to see Zillah, Father Lamech's wife, motioning to him as she held up a clean, dry Sabasi garment and a large blanket. Grateful, Lita followed her into the smaller. Father Lamech shoved the thick folds of the tent door aside, walked back to his bowl of figs, and plopped down on the piles of richly colored pillows and blankets cushioning the floor. Tubal-Cain, sit, commanded Father Lamech as he pointed towards the space opposite him. Tubal-Cain moved out of the shadows and sat down obediently across from his father. Have some, please, said Lamech, grinning broadly as he passed the bowl of figs to Tubal-Cain. Yes, that's it. Eat. Father Lamech watched Tubal-Cain dig hungrily into the fruit. Now does, oh yes, Simjaza. Simjaza will go through with the marriage to Nema. I am sure of it. But in the meanwhile, we have another situation that must be handled immediately. Yes, Father? The ceremony of the bearer. It must be stopped. Stopped? Asked Tubal-Cain incredulously as a fig fell from his mouth. I know that you are furious at the High Council for choosing Enoch as the bearer, but the council has ruled. Great Mother Eve has the word of the elders. How can it be stopped? Listen, Great Mother Eve is surely cursed and full of the sickness, even though she was weaker with the sleeping of each son, and the tribe of Cain will not be subject to her deceit any longer. Obviously, her mind is twisted. If it was not, how could she not see the hand of the Ancient One on you? It was you who brought back the Elohim, the sons of God. What did Enoch do? Nothing. I tell you, a few bundles of Alru are not. Why, the union between the Benai, Elohim Simjaza, and Nema is the fulfillment of the prophecy. From their seed, a tribe of redeemed men, free of the curse and full of the Ancient One's essence, will flourish and fill all of Adama, and you, my son, deserve all the credit. This is your birthright. It is your destiny to deserve all the credit. This is your birthright. It is your destiny to atone for Father Cain and bring honor to our tribe. Why else would he protect Father Cain's life for so long, if not to restore him? By Adama's blood, I will not let that Enoch swindle your birthright from you. No. It is the hidden Father's will to sons of Adam. But Father, how? Asked Tubal-Cain as he stood up and paced about the room. What can be done now? Stop the ceremony. Appeal to the people directly. If the High Council makes a rule that is unjust, the people have a right to know about it. I am sure if they had the chance to decide, they would not choose Enoch. I am sure if they had the chance to decide, they would not choose Enoch. Now would they? No, perhaps not, said Tubal-Cain. Many of the people prefer me over Enoch. I know that. They can see my strength and skill as a hunter. And truly, we have fed the people using the wisdom of the ancient to tame the wild, acknowledged our favor. He stopped pacing abruptly and rubbed his chin. It might work. There is the time of communion just before the offering is made. Everyone will be gathered. All of the firstborns will be presented just before the new bearer is honored. It might work. Yes, is honored. It might work. Yes, that's it, Tubal-Cain, said Father Lamech with a tinge of approval in his craggy voice. Now you are using the mind of the Ancient One. Tubal-Cain quickly adjusted his outer cloak, making sure the gold and red banners of the firstborn were prominently displayed. Most of these, I will fulfill the will of the Ancient One. With you as my son, my mind is as free as the wind, Tubal-Cain, said Father Lamech, smiling again as he filled his pipe with heaven's ashes and set the crushed leaves afire. I knew we could count on you. Father Cain will be most pleased. Tubal-Cain smiled and will be most pleased. Tubal-Cain smiled and swiftly left the tent as the warmth of his father's praise fueled his footsteps. Never you mind about Father Lamech now. Just never you mind, said Zillah consolingly as she hung the blanket from the rafter. Lilita, and give me those wet clothes. Such a shame that Lamech is treating his best Sabasi that way. Doesn't have the sense of the Ancient One. Aye, sister, 'tis true, said Ada, Lamech's other wife, as she entered the tent and grabbed Alita's wet clothes off the floor. Saw the whole thing, heard it no less, all the way from Jubal's tents. Someone should teach him the respect of the Ancient One, and treating his own daughter that way, like a common Nuta. Why, the men are already calling her Nema the Nuta and making bets on who'll be next. Oh, it's just a shame. Oh. A harsh groan on the other side of the blanket, and the sound of Zillah's muffled sobs stopped Ada's frank telling of the day's news. Oh my, I am sorry, Zillah. I didn't mean to be so well, said Ada quickly as she dabbed at Zillah's tears with a small fine cloth. I am sorry, sister. You know I love Nema as if she were my own. It's just a shame. Curse on us all if he has not stopped. Well, all is forgiven, sister. You speak the truth. That Lamech has caused us nothing but pain, and now he has betrayed Lita as well. The elders will tell the tale of Lita the fool for ages to come. If only something could be done. Good women, you are wise indeed, said Lita in quiet, low tones. But Father Lamech is a great man. Though much evil rests in his heart, what could be done to one such as him? Ah, yes, you see the difficulty in the matter, said Zillah calmly. He is an angry one. The fierceness of Cain is 'tis a shame that nothing short of death would stop him. Death? Asked Lita, raising his voice with surprise. But only the Ancient One has the authority to kill a man. Indeed, you are right. But didn't the Ancient One say, a man who sins shall surely die? If any man has sinned, it is Father Lamech. 'Tis true, sister, he has sinned against the Ancient One and his own family with his rebellious acts, agreed Ada, shaking her head sadly. 'Tis a shame someone so twisted should live. But Father Lamech is as strong as the cedars of Avonland, and as how could his essence be taken from him? Asked Lita. Zillah leaned in close to Lita and spoke in hushed tones. Someone strong and true could do it. If they acted boldly, then all would be restored. The insult to you would be avenged, and your honor affirmed by the tribe. Father Lamech is strong, but not invincible. Why, even Nema's wedding to the Benai Elohim Samjaza might be prevented if only someone was bold enough to stop Father Lamech. They waited in silence. Lita crinkled his nose as a foul scent wafted through the tent. If someone bold, Lita began hesitantly, how could it be done? That Lamech is a cunning one. He must be caught unaware. It is the only way, for no one is swifter at a challenge than he. Not even Tubal-Cain has been able to best his father. But if someone was to challenge him when he is distracted and full of strong drink, they could best him. Lita, Zillah, and Adah talked a great while. Lita gathered the damp garment he had worn before into his arms and headed back towards the gathering of Sabasi, who busied themselves with preparations for the next communion. He stepped lightly, not with the tread of the forlorn and rejected, but with a firmer stride than he had ever possessed. Lita had the walk of one with purpose. Smiling slightly, he greeted them cheerfully and joined in the work. There was that strange smell again. It smelled like decaying flesh. Lita shook his head quickly. One of the Sabasi must have delayed the preparation of meat for too long. Obviously, someone had already reprimanded the servant's error, for the rotting meat was nowhere in sight. Onami trudged lightly up the steep embankment. He could hear the sounds of the river Pasan crashing below. He was close to its source now. Just a few spans more and he would reach it. There, gurgling, churning masses of fresh spring water pushed its way from the depths of Adama and exploded victoriously out of the peak of the highest of the 7 hills. Steam rose around the surrounding vegetation, luxuriously green and nourished from the warm mist. That's better. Onami breathed deeply, the heavy aroma so close to that of heaven's realm. With each intake, Onami forgot the acrid stench of the fallen that had begun to permeate all of Adama. Onami took a few more steps and paused. There it was, the summit. Even though Onami could have flown in his spirit form, he chose to go on foot. Azam warned him to be discreet, and he took his friend's advice seriously. The longer journey was worth it. He was sure no other watchers spotted him, and the view was spectacular. Onami stared purpose down into the lush valley on the other side of the 7 hills, watching as 4 clear streams surged down the rocky hillside and watered the plain below. Eden. Ha! Onami laughed quietly, surprised that he had gotten this close unchecked. It was even funnier that the sons of Adam could not find it. Why, some of the tribes are no further than a day's journey on foot. Onami stifled a giggle at the irony and started down the hill, careful not to disturb the stillness there. Surprisingly, his feet found the landscape familiar. Onami paused for a moment to study a bright patch of flowers growing, unhindered petals to his face, and inhaled deeply. The scent sent a tingling sensation down his spine. Delicious. I see the Dotinus Mali grows here as well. It was one of the most desirable blooms in the garden of God. But the beautiful flower never had that effect on him before. No. Onami swung around instantly. Nothing. A few hummingbirds flitted cheerfully from petal to petal, and a flurry of golden speckled butterflies twittered by, swirling around his head briefly, before they realized the sweet aroma emanating from him produced no nectar. Onami shook off the strange sensation and moved forward towards the valley. He was almost halfway down now. Swap! Onami fell backwards with a thud and instinctively drew his bow. What? He gazed up, out, and all around as he rubbed his forehead vigorously. There was nothing. What was that? No men, no animals, no other watchers, no fallen either. No, I would have noticed their scent long ago. Onami stood up again, slowly. He assumed the first position, both knees bent in a forward lunge, arms crossed in front of his chest, hands closed tightly with his fingers pressed together like a dagger. Onami inhaled and exhaled slowly, staring straight ahead, still as the 7 hills themselves. Then in one fluid movement, swat! Onami thrust his arms forward with all his strength. Ah! Onami cried out and drew back his arms as sharp pinpoints of pain surged up and down his limbs. But not before he saw it. The plush landscape stretched out before him, wavered. Onami shook his arms vigorously as he felt his essence strengthen once more. Oh, this time Onami knew what to do. Instead of attacking, he relaxed. Gently, he raised his hand and slowly pressed the air in front of him. His hand tickled as it blended, wavered, and then disappeared in front of him. Anami followed his hand. Halt, Elohim, boomed a voice so long and loud that Onami's frame shook from the force of it. Anami looked up, took a few steps back, and gazed heavenward again. Before him stood the cherubim, man-like face, fierce in countenance, magnificent wings, outstretched for at least 10 cubits. Downy softness dripped and surged from those great arms, bathing him in ethereal light as Anami bowed with respect. And greetings, most honored one. I am Anami of the Beloved's guard, said Anami, embarrassed that he was shaking a bit. I need to. Onami, called a raspy voice, sounding more like a roar than anything. Go, said the cherubim as he pointed towards the cultivated maze of flowering shrubs and trees behind him. To the tree of life. Say nothing. Do nothing. Only enter the gate. Onami nodded reverently. Azaz with the cherubim. It was like he was expecting me. Onami walked slowly past the cherubim into the labyrinth. Huge branches dangled overhead, clasping and intertwining with one another like caring hands cradling a newborn. A pleasant breeze pushed through the leaves and surrounded him with its heady perfume. Jasmine, gardenia, honeysuckle, and countless rows of the sweetest blooms decorated the path in an epiphany of color. All at once he could see it, feel it, taste it, become it. Onami closed his eyes and inhaled deeply again. Ah, just like home. He opened his eyes quickly as something brushed against him. Oh! Onami took a few steps backwards and stared in amazement at the images swirling about him, stunned at the sight before him. Instead of colorful birds and animals, many people. I thought the Garden of Eden was empty. They ignored his presence completely. Onami lifted his hand to wave to them, to greet them. Then he remembered the words of the cherubim. Say nothing, do nothing, only enter the gate. Onami lowered his hand and leaned backwards as he dodged a man who came running out of the thicket, followed by a group of laughing children chasing him. Why, that looks just like... No, it couldn't be. But it was. Onami was sure of it. Tall, slender, thick hair, twisted like ropes. Onami swung around to get... Did he get here? That son of Adam was killed in the first age. I am sure of it. My knowledge of history and the lineage of Adam's seed is not false. He saw another figure on the pathway in front of him. Another man was gathering fruit from a large tree which grew in the center of the clearing. Smooth, flattened stones surrounded the humongous trunk of clustered vine-like roots bound together as one tight cord. The man's perfectly proportioned frame was sturdy, but graceful too, and his symmetrical features rivaled that of any Elohim. He looked up from his task with brown eyes, focused and direct, and stared. His mouth dropped open in surprise. Adam! How? Can he see me? Onami waited without moving. Adam gazed towards him for a few moments, then went back to his work, finally picking the basket up and hauling it over his head as he moved away from the tree and deeper into the maze. He can't see me. Onami shuddered in the warmth of the garden. But why did the cherubim tell me not to say or do anything? They can't see me anyway. Onami caught his breath and moved closer towards the tree. So, this is what the cherubim guard at the risk of peril to their own spirits. Onami approached the tree, descended and gleamed from that tree like the stars of heaven above, containing the essence of everything that was and that will ever be. The fruit, brilliant hues of ruby red, blue sapphire, and the purest gold, hummed and pulsated like the mighty quasars of the dark. Infinite expanse leading the way home. They dangled precariously from long branches of light, winding and twisting downward to its source. A thick trunk of spellbinding bright, the color of fiery rain. Onami laughed with glee. Yes, the tree of life, of course. I wonder. Onami looked quickly to the left. Position at the top of the 7 hills was paying him no mind. Well, it couldn't hurt. Curious, Anami quickly transformed and assumed a body of flesh. Shivering as he got used to the cold suit, he looked again. Ah, yes, just what I thought. It was just a tree, a beautiful one, full of just a tree, a beautiful one, full of delectable fruit, but still just a tree. They can't see it in this form. The way home is hidden to them. Anami transformed again, once more returning to his natural spirit form. He quivered again, but this time not from any natural sensation, assuming the rhythm of the tree, the rhythm of life itself. This gate was different. He had used the gate at Mount Arata many times before, and the gates on countless other planets in countless other star systems, like this one. He was accustomed to the familiar vibrations as he left one dimension and returned to the other, the vibrations as he left one dimension and returned to the other, the lights, the loss of everything, and then the return. But this was different. It was as if he could see every possibility, every hope, every dream, every thought he might ever think as he lost himself in the power of that tree. For a moment, he could feel the of the cosmos, and the echo of the universe resounded for the first time. He saw the ecstasies of the galaxy's birthing planets, black holes, and the will of the Ancient One always guiding and expanding with unyielding force. And something else, something familiar but different. It was the one mind. It was the one mind, but stronger than he had ever felt it before. In it he could perceive the entirety of everything that was, is, and was to come, and with it an overwhelming sense of love. And Anami could feel that love, know it. A calm filled every core of his being, warming him from the pit of his stomach and radiating outward. Now he saw the immense fields of heavendom rolling before him, heard the melodies of the forest cry out with glee as he soared through the memories of it all like a falcon released from its cage at last. Anami laughed and giggled and then laughed. Anami laughed and giggled and then laughed again with a joy deeper than anything he had ever known. Then he heard a sound. Someone was laughing with him, someone familiar but far in the distance. The soft, high pitch of bells jingling was this voice tinkling alongside him, around him, and somehow within him. He looked for the sound, searched for the one making it, sped along faster and faster. The voice ran ahead, laughing. He tried to keep up. He came closer and closer, almost, yes, he could see it. See her now. It was Tafara. She was holding out her hands to him, laughing. He reached out to grasp it, and then he fell. Anami tumbled out of the fullness of the anti-void onto the smooth pavement, startling a few passers-by. Ooh. Anami stood up and rubbed his head, still dazed by the crossing, and looked around. He thought he would have a distance to travel to reach the great general's compound, but his concerns were unnecessary. Anami stared at the complex. He smiled faintly at two men dressed smartly in the full regalia of the host and nodded. "All is well, good Benai," one of them said courteously, but not before giving Anami the once-over. The other guard shrugged his shoulders, gave Anami a curious glance, and then whispered something to his companion. I know I might be a little disheveled, but does he have to be so rude?" Anami looked down to examine himself and gasped. No wonder. Instead of his usual pearly essence, he was glowing, practically radiating every hue of the spectrum. I don't know what. Anami the guards as he stammered and struggled to come up with an explanation for his appearance. Just then, another of the host appeared, a senior member of the higher ranks from the looks of his uniform. His white garment was simple and unadorned, except for a collar of gold embedded with an intricate design of emeralds and rubies. "Lieutenant Anami of the Alpha Company?" asked Benai, replied Anami immediately, straightening his stance as he gave the customary salute for superiors. "Come with me," said the Benai with a curt nod. "The general is